put your face here.
I'm here.
I love that. That's an
Me
opener.
too.
That's the cutest voice
How do
ever.
I put my face there? I don't know. That's an old me.
That's amazing. Hey, boys and girls, welcome to the show. We got Joe, as always, and
Hello.
our Trader's Journey guest. Thanks to Sean driving this. I friggin' love it. We have Michael, and Michael and I go back a good ways from Material Indicators, and I've been thoroughly impressed with Michael's development skills because he's created some cool tools. But I also have enjoyed a lot of conversations over the years with Michael as the Ethereum maxi to Sean's Bitcoin maxi. So I'm kind of curious, not only kind of the evolution of Michael in trading, but also curious where you stand right now in terms of that state of mind. But first, why don't you introduce yourself, Michael? Tell us whatever you're comfortable telling us about your background. I've always been fascinated with you because you've traveled a good deal with your family to other parts of the world besides the United States. So whatever you're comfortable with talking about, go ahead and give us the background on Michael.
Oh, geez. I don't even know where to start.
Well, you're originally from the United States.
Originally from the United States. I'm 40. I'll be 43 this year.
All right.
Youngster.
I'm a youngster. And apparently, this is a phenomenon that people in my age are just not growing up. And
can you blame them?
It's so easy not to.
Yes.
If you'd asked me when I was like in high school or something, what do you think your life's going to turn out to be? I did not think it would be like this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought I would go on to be super successful and blah, blah, blah. I mean, and businessy, carry on the business kind of entrepreneurial spirit of my family, which originates probably from Hungary, is where we think we've pinpointed on my father's side. And my mother's side, a little bit more mixed up, some French, some Potawatomi. But my father was an entrepreneur, and he did well for himself, and he taught me, some of the basics. Give me some others. It's really hard when you've got somebody in the family who really knows a lot and wants to really give it to you. They end up being actually, and they end up being somebody that you rely on, and you never learn the stuff intrinsically yourself.
Sure.
But he gave me this book, The Investment Biker, by Jim Rogers.
Never heard of that.
You never heard of it?
No.
Have you heard of Jim Rogers?
The name is familiar.
He's a big shot, trading hedge fund kind of guy. But I remember when I was in high school, I think I must have been in high school, mid 90s. And my father gave me this book. He said, read this book. Okay, it's this guy. He goes around the world on his motorcycle, visiting all kinds of countries. He'll stop in Zimbabwe and say, "Oh, I want to go and see, the Zimbabwe stock market."
Okay.
And he would go and pour a little bit of money here and there in different countries, and spilled out his thoughts. I mean, he wrote this book, and I thought it was, I don't know. I'm only looking back on it now and thinking oh yeah, that was kind of a cool thing.
Did it teach you how to trade?
It did not teach me how to trade. It taught me how to it provided some adventurous spirit
Nice.
I think the trading came later. I'd always dabbled in like doing a little bit of stocks here and there, far before I don't know anybody else. I remember I used to do some programming and then like have another screen, have some stocks up, and people at work would be like, "What are you doing over there?" I'm like, "Nothing."
Now
But,
you've had some background, not only kind of working real jobs, but you've also done some entrepreneurial stuff as well.
never really. I could never really like. I tried. I'm like on like I don't know, try number 53 or something like that. I don't know. not entirely a success. But I mean, things that I can look back on now and say that maybe it informs me on a broader scale. Well, I'll wait for it. But
Okay.
anyway, I'm not. I got a high school diploma. I went and did like a big European. I'll be a cultured guy, and it was it was cold and expensive, and I was up. Next thing I know, I'm on a boat to Tangier.
Wow.
And rent a little bit of an apartment off an old lady in the Medina in the city of Fez.
Wow.
And just really wild. And then I spent another 6 months in Southern Africa. Went to Mozambique, and really saw like one of the poorest countries in the world at the time.
How long were you traveling like this?
God, I was traveling on like less than $20 a day.
Wow.
And I think that all in all it was maybe 2 or 3 months in Europe and 6 months in Southern Africa.
Nice.
And
was there a reason you wanted to go to Africa?
Only that the English architecture guy that I was with in Morocco said like, "Oh yeah, I've heard from friends Mozambique is really cool to go to." And I'm like, okay, yeah, why not? I spent Christmas with friends of my sister in Slovenia, and then I booked a flight, returned like, I'll go down there, I'll spend a little bit and come back. And it was like $400, which is like a big chunk of money for me at the time. When I got down there, I had no idea, nothing about Africa, not a clue. Second day in, buying my train ticket down at the downtown Joburg. I've got a knife to my chest.
Holy crap!
It was quite an experience.
I guess that's amazing.
This South African guy found me. I was staying at some kind of like beachside hostel up in Mozambique, and he's like, "Dude, you've got malaria." I'm like, "No, I've been taking anti-malaria pills. It's fine, no problem." He's like, "No, dude, you have malaria." So I spent the night in a bush hospital there, and
holy crap!
The guy across from me died in the middle of the night. The nurses don't wear shoes. There's no running water. I'm shitting myself.
My God,
like I thought I was gonna die in that moment. And then I convinced them that I was better the next day. And this fella, the guy who had found me, he had a Land Rover, and he was doing his big trek. And I was like, "Please, can you just take me to the next town?" He's like, "I'm going further into the bush, I'm like, "Okay, just take me."
Wow, dude.
But that was a big adventure, and that left quite an impression. So I came back home and said like, I'm not going to go to college. I'm going to save up money and just like go and do my next big adventure. But then I worked for a dial-up internet company in
Chuck City, Bola, Patient Zero.
Yeah. And they fired like 20 people, and like at the end of it, when I finally left, there was like one of 4.
Wow.
But that was an interesting experience. And I did another trick. I drove my pickup truck from Virginia all the way down to Central America over about 8 months. Sold the truck there. Continued on for another 1.5 years.
Wow.
I spent a couple
That's
years
a cool trip.
in Asia. Got into motorcycles while I was over there. I
I feel a book here, man.
Oh God, I don't know. I guess I can call them mini retirements.
Right?
There's nothing better than when you've worked really hard, you bust your ass, you save up a bunch of money, and then you minimize. You get rid of all of your old shit at home.
Yep.
You just minimize. You go out on your own, and I've always really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've kind of continued this on. Well, real quick though. I mean, I know you got development skills. Was that in the first job, or did you self-teach yourself development, or kind of how did you end up being someone that could actually write code? And you were a product management kind of person.
I've always come home broke, and I'll be like, oh God, nobody's gonna hire me. But then I'm like, actually, I kind of know a bit more than I really think I do, and I think I came back from Asia. I think I spent 6 months with. I'm just gonna learn Java, and I got the thickest Java book that I could find, and that was I'm gonna try doing my own little thing here, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then at least it's something I could show off as, something that I did to get a job.
Right.
And that generally had always worked. Yeah, I mean, generally, now it's totally cool. Oh, you didn't go to college? You're first in line.
It's acceptable. So you ended up, well, I don't know the path from kind of, did you keep going back and forth, traveling, go home for a while, travel, go home for a while? And then kind of you ended up married with someone who also seems to like to travel. How did that path get from there to here?
Well, so she's French. I had a, I don't know, relatively quick career, I guess, in mobile app development.
Yeah.
That company has since sold for $1 billion. I guess I could say I contributed to a unicorn.
There you go. I love that.
And that's, that there was some stock options-y kind of thing that goes along with that kind of, when you're in it, you don't know what it is or how it all works. And it's all kind of a black box anyway, because you're a different class of shares than other people. And, I'm not like a founding person or anything. And, it's you learn as you go and you fuck it up all the time. I'm a professional fuck it up. I'm very good at fucking things up. But disruptor, man, disruptor. Yeah. Disrupt myself like nobody else. So I guess I went away on a vision quest to Burma. On a scuba dive trip. I don't know, it was 2 scuba dive agencies that actually take their boats into Burma. And that was right when there was sort of that Rohingya kind of stuff starting to go on.
Genocide?
Yeah, genocide, yeah.
I mean, not laughing at genocide, laughing at the coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just always end up being close to the shit. But
it's exciting, man. It's exciting. It's fun. I mean, I share some of your I kind of see how you got in there, because I always like to do that too. I love to travel, and I'd always, leave some company or some job or whatever, and the first thing I'd be doing would be heading out the door, overseas somewhere. And but you get all that experience, and then one day, like you said, you wake up and you're 40 plus, and you're like, wait, well, what do I have here? It's and you got all these awesome experiences, which could basically means you can drop into any situation pretty much globally in a business setting and solve a problem. Or you can drop in anywhere with nothing and, figure out how to, do your own little naked and afraid on some tropical beach, like you said, for $20 a day. Of course, you have stuff. But it's like, what do you do next? And I think Brad, you kind of said the write the book thing. I mean, I always wonder if there's like content plays out of these types of stories because, yeah, travelers know those stories. Like I'm sure, well, everybody knows certain stories from traveling, like doing round the world trips, but a lot of people don't at all have the faintest idea of what goes on out there. So maybe that is. I'd love to figure out somebody can figure that angle out.
Sean said that's the way to live a life. And I completely agree. I had a buddy who, for 3 years, he and his best friend, they were both like cooks when they were in college, and they traveled the world, went from country to country, working in restaurants for a few months, making a living, learning how to be a chef in the style of that culture. And then they would hang out for 3 months and spend all the money they'd made and then hitchhike to the next country. Right.
Awesome.
And I always was like, wow, that's kind of all of the travel things that you did and other people did. I never did when I was that age. And really, I don't have regrets, but I really wish I had done that. Now my wife and I are waiting for the kids to graduate from high school soon. So that we can go travel for the rest of our lives. So I 100% value all that experience in life that you've had doing that kind of travel. I think that's awesome.
It's
that's cool.
I think you hit the what you said, Joe, about just being able to drop into a situation and figure it out. I think that sort of hit with me. I was 18 years old, and you're like on the lakeside of Malawi, and your half shaft breaks on a 76 Land Rover, and you need to take the differential out to clean out all the shit and do all that stuff. I did that when I was 18. Right? I mean, you look back on it, it's like, holy shit, it's like you counter all these problems, and then you have to be solutions oriented. And I think I felt that in my last sort of careerish sort of thing as being a solutions architect.
Mm-hmm.
And certain people you meet, and they're like, I'm problem oriented, and they complain, and that's good. You need that. You need complainers. Sure. I think, Brad, you're pretty good at complaining.
Absolutely. Thanks, Michael.
And that's good.
I love it.
A problem, okay, there's a problem, and then you need to go out there and figure out a way to fix it.
And I would say that
I do enjoy that.
I would say that what I hear a lot here in terms of your willingness to take things on and take risk and solve problems, probably a lot of the influence towards that came from your entrepreneurial father. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's kind of the spirit of entrepreneurship, is somebody that can see a problem and say, screw it, I'll figure out how to solve it. Right. And that's fantastic. Really. I mean, those are amazing life skills, amazing, whether or not they came from watching your entrepreneurial father or not. But the fact is that you were willing to do it. And that's awesome.
Well, thanks, Dad.
Well, we're not getting Grandpa Michael today. Well, that's good. All right. So, okay. You were going to tell us about, meeting a French woman and
okay. All right. So I was trying to get on with it. So it's not like, gee whiz, you pull on one little thread and then suddenly you got my whole life's vomit out in front of you. So, we met on this, we were like on this liveaboard. I guess I came out of a relationship, and like, I think 6 months have passed. It's been time. She was also on this liveaboard cruise, and she, I don't know, a relationship developed. She said, "Oh, I'm developing a scuba dive agency." I was like, "Oh, I could probably help you out with this and that." She had like, no idea. But anyway, she ends up coming back to the States. Well, we do a little bit. She went back to France, and then she was in contact with other people that we had met on the boat. They was in contact. So I was doing a little digital detox. I took an old Nokia phone that I bought in Madagascar for $4 back in 2009. And I was doing this month-long trip of like, I'm just going to do it with this phone. So she was like communicating with other people that she had known from the boat around me, like, oh yeah, I'm actually going to come back, but like, don't tell him that I'm coming back. Like, we got a thing going, blah, blah, blah. Lo and behold, she comes back, she shows up, and like, we go and travel on for another month, and like, oh, okay. A relationship ensues, and then she comes visit me in the States, and for like 2 or 3 months, and then I wrap up more or less some other freelance projects that I was working on. And then I was like, oh, well, I'll put my house on Craigslist and see if somebody wants to rent it. A family from Singapore wants to come do something with the university. So like in like November, which is like totally not a usual time to like be able to rent a house. Things work out. It's one of those things. Hey, this is the hardest thing. Like you step off, you come and like say, oh, I want to take a risk. It's just like putting your finger, licking your finger, putting it to the air and saying like, what will work? What will stick in this wind here? And when you like just try something, throw it out there to the universe, maybe it grabs, maybe it doesn't. But I'm shocked every time when something grabs.
Nice.
I'm shocked. I actually have a real pessimistic mind. I think this differentiates me from my entrepreneurial father. Is like he's like, oh yeah, of course it's going to work, and I'm thinking of all the reasons why it's not going to work. But in the end, things do kind of work. You end up muddling through life. You make things work. You rent out your house. She rents out her apartment. We're going to go to Bali. We go and do digital nomading in Bali, and we're doing yoga and massages and get fiber internet and a pool and all this good stuff. And naturally, of course, we became heavy with child. And then,
I love that. Heavy with child.
cohabitating and whatnot. I don't know.
Chapin's friend, right?
And it's a long story. It was a lot of like ups and downs, and I guess it prepares you for the whole crypto ups and downs kind of stuff. Which, by the way,
nice
Yeah.
segue.
I didn't even tell.
Good point.
There's. I'm just saying, it's a complicated pregnancy type thing. Like, we ended up coming back to France, had the baby in Paris. His first breath of fresh air was like 10 doctors smoking cigarettes right outside the front door.
Vive la France.
Yeah. And then we had to do like surgeries, like it was like it could be maybe it was going to be one surgery or like two corrective sort of thing. He's totally fine. It's like not like at all like horrible stuff, but I mean there's a lot of we had to do surgery
Trauma.
these days.
Scary. Yeah.
Scary stuff. For new parents and
Yeah.
a lot.
Heck
We
yeah.
did sort of during the pregnancy, whatever. We had to go to Texas like every 6 months.
Wow.
3 surgeries. We thought it might be 1, and then they said, no, it's going to be 2, and then they were like, no, it's going to be 3. So a lot of like back and forth, Bali to France, and France to Bali again, and blah blah blah. I mean, he spent like 6 months in Bali, and that's fantastic. If
Nice.
you got a small kid, you want to go have like a good family, whatever kind of stuff. You go to Bali. Then take the kids back in the kitchen, feed them fresh strawberries while you have your dinner peacefully, and like they love to just have children around. Fantastic.
Nice.
And then after we had completed our last surgery, we flew to we were going to do a stopover in French Polynesia, do a little scuba diving, and then continue on to Bali. And that was when the pandemic hit.
Oh yeah.
And we were like locked in French Polynesia. Luckily our Airbnb hosts were like, yeah, we're happy to have you stay. And we're like, cool.
Thumbs up.
But then, you sort of shit yourself. You're like, holy crap. Like, what does this mean? The whole world's locked down. We've got basically a travel agency that like we've been trying to get going. Like, what is this going to mean for us economically? Yada yada yada. And prior, I have to say, in 2000, I think it was probably 2012. You know, I had gone to a conference, mobile app development, whatever kind of conference sort of thing, and it was on mobile payments. And somehow, I don't even know how I knew about Bitcoin at the time. And my company sent me up to New York to go to this conference and I don't know, just sort of suss out the situation. And there were three or four different panelists, and they were all talking about different integrating with I don't know who it was, Stripe or this, that, and the other. And I don't know. All right, I posed a question. I like, give me the microphone. All right, have you guys? What about Bitcoin? What are you guys doing about Bitcoin? None of them had even heard of Bitcoin.
Wow.
And I was shocked at the time. I was like, "Are you
Sure.
kidding me?" Okay,
Yeah.
sure. It takes a little while, a few seconds to do the transaction, but come on, you're doing mobile app payments. It's the perfect sort of thing. You also like do credit card numbers and how to do it. And it was only like after that thing, of like I had this like weird trench coat guy experience. Like this guy stops me. He's like, "What do you know about Bitcoin?" And I don't know. They were like
Was that
JP
Sean?
Morgan types over there. I have no idea. Much better looking than Sean.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, so I had a little bit of Bitcoin, and when I had endeavored on this trek, at one point Bitcoin was up so high, I was like, yeah, we could go out and take this risk. We got this cushion, this thing, this sort of thing. But like Bitcoin was doing its own sort of run up, run down sort of thing in I don't know what was it, 2017 or 18 or whatever. That was like, yeah, cool. But while we're in French, so come back to French Polynesia, like, oh my God, world's in crisis. What are we gonna do? And then I'm like catching up on all this cryptocurrencies kind of stuff. And then I started in on with like trading, really getting sort of like with DYDX. So doing DeFi trading.
I never knew you started there. That's interesting.
That's it. I had not traded on a sex before. But I was like, oh yeah, I'll do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Like I felt like I knew, like, okay, global circumstances, there's got to be some sort of opportunity in this crisis of something
Right.
kind of something to do with I don't know what. But I was just hoovering up information. And
And now you're on your own private island.
now I'm not, when I was doing some ups and downs. I'm like, look, honey, I made like $100 today. Like, like, oh, that's cool. And like, hey, we could more or less live off this. I've used to live on $20 a day. Now,
Right.
3 people, whatever. Okay. And then I don't know. Eventually, we figured out, okay, we'll go to France. We'll hide out in France. We found a Montessori school that's outside of like Bordeaux, and they were cool. Then I got into like a little bit more of like playing around with leverage, and then I sort of figured out how to build a position. But I built a position on Ethereum, and I did. It was just dumb luck. It's just dumb luck. Nothing smart about it. Nothing like, I'd sort of built a position. I'd raised, levered up a little bit at some point, and then it just sort of took off.
Nice.
Was it last quarter of 21, I think, was it? I guess. I don't know. I don't remember. The whole thing's a blur. All I remember is at one point, I'm like, honey, how would you feel about a boob job? No. We're going to have to go to third world. We can get it in a first world country.
That's amazing. So things had gone really well with the Ethereum bet. And is that what turned you into an Ethereum maxi?
What I do like about trading is that you really have to watch your bias.
Yeah.
Because I'm generally tuned into where people find their bias.
Right.
And and I have to say I'm fascinated by social psychology,
Mm.
um, like what makes groups of people want to do this or that. And through my old job, we were on like the mobile app revolution of like doing software services for people who wanted to build apps. And so they're like, I got an idea for an app. Um, and I would go and hear them on the sales team and be like, oh yeah, roughly it's going to cost you 50 or $100,000 to build this kind of thing, give or take. And you hear a bunch of different ideas, and you try to feel out like what are the masses going to want, and you hear a lot of bad ideas, you hear a lot of good ideas that are crowded that everybody else is doing, and you know, in the end, the ease of use and the user experience and the onboarding process, like all the little stuff like goes together in order to make something. And even if you do all the stuff, it's like it doesn't quite, it's still like by luck in some way.
Sure.
But you just sort of learn about guesstimating stuff, whether it's like how many hours it's going to take to do this project, or whether or not somebody's going to bother to download an app to do XYZ.
Or if a particular project is going to succeed, and that's why you want to bet on it as a crypto.
Yeah, I mean, and I have to say, I could tell you about another experience that I did have while I was working. I was playing with some of my own money in the stock thing, and I found it like this the perfect biotech sort of thing. I've got some inside like understanding and knowledge on. I had like, by the way, I have a small aside. Like I did have a foray into like, I have like a lot of friends who are biologists, microbiologists, and I just sort of keep up on like what's going on in like synthetic biology, and now you can do like basically like programming type stuff, but using DNA.
Right.
Yeah. There was a time when I was doing computational biology on the honeybee genome.
Wow.
So you take the whole genome of the honeybee, and then you use certain software in order to like try and find where genetic sequences are. They create a gene that you can that may control something of the honeybee, which they use them to sniff out landmines and stuff like that. You had no idea. But I had made some investments, some biotech sort of stuff, and if you've ever played in that ground before, there's all kinds of psyops that happen there that like and I had to learn kind of the hard way. And I even like chased this thing down. I was like, how or why was I so wrong on this sort of thing? and you pull together the cast of characters that goes behind that, and you learn about like so and so is connected with this Michael Milken fellow. Like, who's Michael Milken?
Oh.
Do either of you guys know who Michael Milken is?
Sure.
Yeah. Savings and loan. Yep.
I mean, and you come to find out that there are just like these characters that like got embedded and are like in this, and it's just, and at the end of the day, you end up being the tinfoil hat kind of guy of like, did they pull a fast one with this whole thing in order to just rug the markets? But that was like old TradFi rugging.
Right.
I got a little bit of a lesson in there. And, from somebody who was a bit smarter than me, like, you should probably buy some puts on that sort of thing, just in case it doesn't work out the way you think. And I was like, nah, fuck you. What do you know? So I've been burned.
Sure. We all have.
And you learn some stuff along the way. I don't like getting burned, so I like to just sort of figure out like where the hell did I fuck this thing up, and there's a whole rat's nest of stuff to if you can go down the rabbit hole as far as you want to with stuff.
Yep.
And I've always felt like if you're willing to go further down the rabbit hole than anybody else, you got an edge there. and I think you do a lot of that with your DeFi stuff. I don't know. I listened to a program the other day, and I was like, "This Brad's like way down deep into this shit." Uh,
It doesn't always help.
Yeah. But there's and through with me sparring with Sean back in the day,
Yeah.
it was I really felt like there are so many different rabbit holes within Ethereum that and Ethereum's the base sort of thing. It's like you just cannot go wrong with this shit.
Right.
And
when did you, so at some point along the way you connected up with Material Indicators, and that's the discussions we're talking about now, was the chats in that group. You became kind of like a leader in the group, kind of keeping everybody on track, and abusing shillers and banning and all that stuff. And that's kind of where all these debates started happening with, Sean the Maximalist, and you, the Bitcoin Maximalist, and you, the Ethereum guy. And those debates were fantastic. I would obviously jump in on the, not as a maxi, but I would jump in on the other sides of those discussions back and forth with Sean. And they also kind of got a bit heated, but I think it speaks to kind of Sean and the atmosphere there, that it doesn't mean the end of relationships or friendships in that group, right? It's just kind of a spirited debate. But
oh no, you know what? I mean, Sean brought me around. I mean, like at first, maybe I mean, I can retreat in a small way, but I do like to pick things through. I mean, like they were continuing on with, and I could still. I think I did look back at some of my older arguments on Material Indicators, and I was like, I did actually have a good point then, and this point may still be valid.
right,
We can still be wrong.
Right.
I mean, in the end, perception is reality.
Yeah.
And so I think that just the journey to go from it's this, and in fact, that debate, that sort of like competition now between ideas and being able to like really lay them. I tell you what, I love that text form. Absolutely love it.
Right.
You got the time to like really like read. There's no way to really misinterpret it. It's written there. It's in black and white. You can have links to sources and like really good stuff. And I think what really pushed me over the edge there is just like, like the strongest really does survive. Like anything is really gonna. Maybe this is just because I came back from the Galapagos not too long ago, but I'm like, so like you guys have like 200,000 visitors that come through the Galapagos National Park every year, and like surely people, there's gonna be like just spill over from the mainland that like whatever. I said, what kind of an invasive species? I asked the tour guy, I said, what kind of invasive species are you like grappling with now? And she's like, she did not want to answer. I think she wanted to like all visitors to feel like they came to the untouched land where like nothing is. She's like, we are like, it's being devastated by like the blackberry like thorny bush of, whatever, and like you look out into this thing, it's like this like crater of like an old volcano that's like, or a sinkhole that's like, she's like, all of the bottom of the thing is blackberries.
Oh like, my god.
So
is Ethereum an invasive species now in your mind?
I would say that Bitcoin is the stronger, more invasive species.
Got it.
And so, there's in the end, there's probably going to be some room for everything,
right?
But it's all going to fight out with it. Everything just ends up being a pendulum that swings one way or the other. Whether it's like, I don't know, the trading has brought me to this sort of like, you get this. everything. I don't know. Maybe it's brought me more to like, I don't know, maybe.
I mean, it doesn't sound like you consider yourself a Bitcoin maxi like Sean, but that you feel like it's the strongest chain and opportunity, and that's your focus now. Is that a correct interpretation?
I think that's the thing to have. I think that like a long term, it's just trying. All of this has brought me back to sort of like the economics of things. There was a period where I read, the sovereign individual, and then later, like, probably should have actually read the Bitcoin Standard. That would have brought out some of the other stuff, but you get a little bit different color of like, you learn some other stuff of history,
sure,
which is really important. I mean, I think Sean's really good about saying, like, really emphasizing when somebody poses a question of like, are we going up or down? And it's like, what's your time scale?
Awesome.
And that's really the bigger element to it, is just and probably I would appreciate to learn more of how to be more hands off by having a longer term vision,
right,
of things. And I think that I mean, I held that Ethereum position for like a year and a half.
Wow.
And I can't say that like I was like, oh yeah, I got out at the top because I knew it was the top. I got out at the top because like I fucked up some kind of like, program thing, and it's like it was on a different account with the other API key. And fuck! Oh my god! I just sold my position. I was gonna hang on to that for like another $10 million or whatever, and like So in the end, it was a blessing in disguise. But I'm trust me, I am no wizard. I'm just a jackass, and like I'm slowly learning stuff along the way. You learn about like, oh yeah, the government's going to tax you if you do like this other special thing. It's like fuck.
Do you refer to yourself as a trader?
I have trouble putting labels on myself at all for anything. I'm just some guy.
But I mean, are you actively trading now? Have you been kind of learning from Sean, kind of like Hammy was? I mean, kind of where are you in terms of trading now?
I have taken a page out of Sean's book with the right kind of contract, with the edge, and being a down only kind of guy, and running an algorithm. I've made like 2 algorithms, and they're just like totally stupid. I haven't even touched them and played with them like really since I got it going. To be honest, gosh, we went on vacation earlier last month, and after that, I'm like, now that I've got this sort of thing going, and it like, look, I'm not getting rich off of this, but it's like, a steady kind of income that I don't have to think about. That like, my only risk is that the exchange is going to go under.
That's
which
awesome.
is not a small risk,
right?
As we know. But I feel like a load of stress is kind of off a bit.
Nice.
Good.
And now we're moving again, like at the end of this month. So I'm kind of like, we'll see how much progress I actually make this month. But I do want to hone. I want to carry that forward for sure. I want to get better at it.
What's your overall kind of strategy in terms of trading? I mean, are you short, long? Are you
short the inverse Bitcoin?
Okay.
And basically I'm just copying whatever shit. You know what? If there are liquidations on like on the same side that you're on, that's a good time to like, add a little bit more to the position.
Sure.
And just little stupid stuff like that. I mean, he talks about his algos like they're dumbass, and actually that was very encouraging to me.
Right.
And Sean has been and his book recommendations have been great. And I think back on some of the things like, it's I'm actually quite amazed at myself how much my worldview has really changed. And you zoom out a little bit more. I mean, there's the time span thing, but there's also really like the wealth of nations and the direction of where things, George Soros, you go and you like pull the threads and you look back like George Soros. What's all the shit you hear about like George Soros, this, that, and the other? And then like I'm going to learn about George Soros because he's up there with Jim Rogers and
Right.
like Milken, maybe. I mean, it's just not good or bad, but just sort of like throughout history, they made money in the markets, and that has broader implications elsewhere. And if I think back on my travels of, I thought I was going to show up in Buenos Aires in early, what was it, 2001, 2002. I thought I would be like, Buenos Aires was Silicon Valley of Latin America. I was going to get a job down there and work in Argentina. Well, guess what? By the time I arrived, the dollar had their peso had depegged from the dollar. It went from 1 to 1, and overnight went to 4 to 1.
Wow.
And you show up on the scene there, and it's like, well, great. I guess I don't have to find a job because my dollar. But you walk around, you look around on the streets. It's like all the bank windows are all graffitied or smashed in, and people are fucking angry, and I don't blame them. They got a corrupt government, and they did this little scheme of like sister currencies. They actually made another currency. They offloaded the debt onto each state, and each state made their own currency, and you had to pay. You could pay like half of your rent in this currency or your electric bill in this other currency. So it sort of worked through the sister currency kind of thing. But like, you zoom out and you think like, oh, okay, why are my US dollars? Why does this go so far? How can I live on $20 a day in, Honduras and whatever? I mean, like, I never even really, I mean, I kind of sort of knew at the time, but I didn't really understand. You think like, why does the dollar go so far in some of these places? And to really zoom out, and I mean, it's all related to the trading and the bigger picture. I mean, like, really forces you to think about like what other people buy American debt. It subsidizes American lifestyle. It's fantastic.
Right.
We're a consumer economy. We give them our dollars, and they give us their stuff. It's unfair, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so you think about that kind of stuff, and then you think about like, I mean, even what we're doing right now is like related to the fella Balaji, whatever, former Coinbase CEO guy.
Yep.
I don't know. He's got that book, The Network State.
Yep.
People connecting, making communities online, and I really feel like that is directionally correct. And as somebody who's sort of between countries and continents, it's
that's highly relatable, I guess.
It is, but you throw in the generational stuff in there, and you think about, what I am to you. I'm 43. You're like, probably mid Gen X, whatever. I'm a cusper.
I'm waiting for the guess, man.
Yeah, that's me too. I like that.
But
I'm 44, dude. No, I'm kidding.
But,
39, man. 39.
I mean, all of, whatever you guys are, it's not important. Whatever it is it like you guys are for your parents, if they had fought in the war. I mean, you think about like not only with just the whole advantage of the U.S. and winning the war, and not only winning, but like profiteering before the war, and the UK only paid America back for everything that it owed from like everything we supplied them, like in the 80s.
Right.
I mean, the incredible wealth advantage and the growth that happened in America through probably like your guys' parents, and that I mean,
Yep.
something like a sixth of the world's global wealth is held by American boomers,
Right.
and my whole life, my orienting myself to, oh, who might want to hire me, or who was going to know better than me? Who am I going to learn from? I was always the youngest of all of my friends. I think coming out of high school, all of my friends were like in grad school, really. And I was always looking to learn from an older generation, and never was really like around a younger generation. As much. I mean, a little bit through my last job, I sort of got to understand, like, oh, okay, there's quite a difference, like, in the millennial. I'm a cusper millennial, maybe, but like, I guess my little micro generation of like 1980 to 82 or 3 or whatever sort of stuff, like, it's very short in America, but I come to Europe and I feel like, I was like, yeah, we had Saved by the Bell when I was, after school, and like, that's my better half. She's like, oh yeah, sauve pour le gong. I was like, they translate that shit to French, and it's like, oh yeah, I mean, like, I feel like for my little micro generation, it spans a little bit further in Europe.
Yeah.
But all of my sort of like, professional career or like, worldview of the people who are like really controlling things, or that you need to impress or whatever. I mean, are those people who are like wealthy business owners, wealthy, like, Americans, that you need to like understand that worldview of, and to translate that down, like, as a middle management kind of guy, in a corporation, the corporate setting, it's really hard with this new sort of, everything is texting and everything is, emoji this, emoji that, and I've never felt so much older in my life than having spent a week in confined spaces on a liveaboard with a subgroup of people who are like, everybody else is French, so I'm like, I'm not going to go there. I don't want to do that. So I got to speak with everybody else. And mid-20s people who are, they're newlyweds, or somebody backpacking on their own, who would have been me maybe 20 some years ago, or whatever. And it's like, I don't spend a whole lot of time with people in their mid-20s, and it's a shame. It's just the humor is different, and the worldview is very different, and this technology in and of itself has become so accessible and so cheap, and like, we've got all those deflationary forces that can allow people to have greater mobility and or optionality for so much stuff that wasn't available when I was a kid, and even less so when you were a kid.
Yeah.
And so, it all feels just related. And when you talk about trading and transacting, you have to have losers and winners within that game.
Sure.
And if I put myself into the energy game of your work output, your whatever value creation that you have, and putting it into something, it is some form of energy, whether the calories burned by using your brain, or the electricity you need in order to do XYZ. And that's sort of, I mean, I'm on that side of the Bitcoin thing, where you have to have that physical, real world thing into Bitcoin, and that is being the medium to transact from one place to another. So it's interesting. I love it that it draws in facets from everywhere, and
Yeah.
I would like to be at a place where I just sit around and read books all day. I've learned about this thing called the Library of Mistakes. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's just like a newer podcast that they've got one in Edinburgh, and they've opened one across the lake here in Switzerland in Lausanne. I'd like to go and visit it, but
That
I mean,
sounds cool.
if I had my brothers, I would be like, all right, I'm rich enough where I don't have to do anything, and I could just sit around and read all day.
Right.
Yeah.
And look at stuff. But yeah.
So
That's
in
it.
terms, if you were going to kind of, so first of all, it sounds like you philosophically you've kind of adopted. I mean, look, the ethos of the whole crypto space is obviously a lot of those themes that you were just talking about in terms of money and how things work and all of that. But it sounds like you've obviously started leaning more heavily towards Bitcoin, and you certainly are from a trading perspective. If you were to pass along to folks kind of like, put yourself back to the first kinds of, sitting there in French Polynesia and you're trying to do some trading and whatever, what would you pass along to people just kind of getting started and thinking about, hey, I'd like to make some money in trading, that, were lessons you learned or books you read in that time frame or whatever that you feel like helped you along the way, or that you wish you had known then?
Oh God. I probably passed over. I gotta tell you, mentally, my knee-jerk reaction, somebody says, "Oh, I want to get into trading," I say, like, just don't do it.
I think anybody with any experience in trading will tell you.
I think I may have left out the part where I was vomiting in the toilet and and I'm hearing, "Honey, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Fuck."
But here's the thing: everybody has to go through that, right? You do want to tell everybody not to, but at the same time, there are people that are going to do it anyway.
I do want to tell everybody not to, but I also, to be honest, I feel like if you're planting seeds, I want to plant those seeds with people who are going to go all the way and not just do the trading just to make money, just for that end, but really to say how that connects with the whole world,
right?
And that's a harder thing. I mean, if the cultural differences between different groups of people are not, I mean, nothing's ever set in stone, right?
Right.
And I'm always for planting seeds with the contrarian that's going to be the voice against the masses, because we need that voice to keep the pendulum from swinging too far one way or the other. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, I mean, sure, just try it. Start out small. Throw shit everywhere. I certainly did, and now I'm covered in it.
And what?
He's covered in it.
Okay.
I love it.
Do you I mean, in terms of kind of understanding strategies, were there things that were kind of like eye-opening for you? Like, oh, okay, if I had known this 2 years ago, I would have been a hell of a lot better off.
I am the worst teacher. It's just like, just going expecting to lose. I don't even know. I don't even know.
All right, tell us a really great trading book.
A good trading book. I haven't really read books on trading, really. I mean, I think through scouring around on the internet, there's this options volatility something rather that apparently is just like a free for download type of thing. Um, that kind of maybe would be something that I would read, but I have no idea if it was written for a different time or for now or.
When you were talking about books earlier, were you talking more about kind of Bitcoin and economics and that kind of stuff?
Well, I mean, the books for, I mean, when Sean's recommendation, I think he recommended me Factfulness, which is really good. That was, it's New York Times bestseller, Bill Gates pick sort of thing. That was really good. I'm like a quarter of the way into the Dalio's latest sort of thing.
Yeah. Fred loves that.
I mean, trading. There's so much free shit available.
Yeah.
Between Wikipedia and YouTube. Listen, if you don't, I mean, I'm not crazy about YouTube so much now. I mean, hey, if I say COVID, is this show going to be like, I don't know, kicked off the thing?
No,
I have no idea.
Good. Don't worry about it.
I have no idea. But if COVID, we'll do the test. If I pay for YouTube. You pay for YouTube, and there's anything you want to learn about is on YouTube. If you're that kind of learner of stuff, YouTube and Wikipedia, and there's just so much shit for free. Chats that are out there, you probably lose yours. I wouldn't recommend going on too many material indicators and Mission DeFi. There you go. That's your recommendation.
There you go. There's the plug. I love it.
Well done.
That's awesome.
And Twitter, I've become a fan of you read a book, you come to like a book, you look up the author on Twitter, and you follow that author.
Yeah.
And you just build a collection of trustable sources.
Yeah. I have a list called Think on Twitter where I put all those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
You're thirsty and hungry for knowledge. And if you want to come and find me, I'm Michael L on Mission DeFi.
There you go. Absolutely. And in material indicators, there's good discussions there as well. So Niblet says there's never a happy day in trading. Either you should have bought more or you should have sold earlier. Only masochists should play this game.
There's some truth to that.
Yeah.
There is some sense of you do want to connect a little bit more with other people, and definitely seeking out other people who have a different view than your own.
Yeah,
certainly there's value in that.
Absolutely.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Niblet said, "Fooled by randomness." He said he internalized it. I actually just bought that book on audio, so I'm going to check it out. But thanks, Niblets. Appreciate it.
That's that Nassim Taleb.
Yes,
whatever.
yes,
yeah.
I'm not a big fan of the man, but evidently everyone talks about that being a fantastic book.
I know he's on Twitter. I can't remember why. It gives me a chalk taste in my mouth, but. I did see one thing of his, which was I looked him up just briefly. I do got to get on that book too, but the thing that stuck with me in the Cliff's Notes version was I'm a communist with my family, I'm a socialist with my friends and neighbors, I'm a Democrat with my state, I'm a Republican on the country level, and a libertarian. As the trust scale goes. The least trust you have with the group, the more libertarian you are.
That's very interesting.
Or that you can trust people within your small group.
Yeah,
you can be more communistic, and I think that sounds accurate. That's a sliding scale of accuracy.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. I hadn't heard him say that, but that is very interesting.
And of course, my favorite quote is from Mark Twain. It's not what you don't know that hurts you. It's what you think you know that just ain't so.
You know what? That's a beautiful close, Michael. I friggin' love that. That's awesome. That's awesome.
And that's it. DeFi dinner.
DeFi dinner. There you
in
go.
Europe.
That's fantastic. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you taking time to tell us your story. It's fascinating kind of what you've done in life. I frankly think you've lived a fantastic life so far with, I hope, many more to come. And I'm excited for kind of hearing later, more of what you learn on the trading world and your participation. We appreciate it in Mission DeFi as well, man. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on, and thanks to Sean, who's out there, who prodded me and made me do this.
There you go. Yeah, Sean likes to push people. He likes to move them out of kind of comfort zone. So I appreciate that a lot.
He's a good motivator. I appreciate it.
Yeah, he's a good man. He's a good man. Well, thanks so much, man. Appreciate you.
Enjoy your travels, Michael. It was cool, man. Hey, do you ever, while you're in Lausanne, do you ever get over to go up into Chamonix, into the Alps, to the south of you? I think.
Do you ever get up? We're across the lake and we're on the French side of the border. But Chamonix is about an hour from where we're living right now. I tell you what, the ski season was super short this year.
Oh, wow.
It was a shame. But I tell you, the mountains up here, it's beautiful. I mean,
I love it. Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's like my favorite place. That part, like there's the Alps right in there going between there and Italy and Switzerland. I mean, it's just, we used to go to this place real quick in Chamonix called the Cantina back in the day. And it was a sort of hostel-y, hotel-y place, but I think it was 19 euros a day when maybe the euro was 70 cents on the dollar. And, you just would be up in the mountains all day coming down, and it's just a great place. So I envy where you are right now. So keep on having fun.
The views here are phenomenal. Fantastic.
Yeah. Cool. All right, man. Pleasure to hear your story, dude. I really liked it a lot, man. Cool.
Okay. Good.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks for having me.
Take care, buddy.